Wofford head basketball coach Dwight Perry joins Marching to Madness. He led the Terriers to the Southern Conference Tournament Championship and into the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2019. Coach, it's a pleasure, man. Glad to have you back.
Glad to be back. Always enjoy coming on, and really fortunate to have a great season. Our guys did a great job. It was an awesome time and a heck of a year.
Wofford had a talented team that proved the definition of March Madness. You win those three games in the Southern Conference tournament, and then you springboard into the NCAA tournament and play a really good Tennessee team up at Rupp Arena.
Yes, they were really good. We anytime, right, you're playing an NCAA tournament, you're going to be facing a really good team. And, we obviously, when we saw the bracket, knowing that you're probably going to be a 15 or a 14, you're facing a 3 or a 2 seed. So you're really facing a great team. And, Tennessee, not only are they talented, but they're well coached. I thought Coach Barnes's team played exactly like we thought they would. They would be tough, they would be physical, but they're going to be highly efficient on both ends of the floor, and they're going to make it really difficult for you to score. And on the other end, you're going to have to do a great job guarding, forcing tough shots. I thought we did that, but especially, guys like Chaz Lanier and Zakai Ziegler, they're really good players, right? And they're, a 2 seed for a reason. And so a lot of the shots they made, especially in the second half, where it was kind of, that 6 to 8, 9 range, those guys made shots to kind of keep us at bay. And so a credit goes to them. But I thought our guys fought hard. We played all the way to the end. I thought it was a very competitive game. Tennessee, again, they're a great program that has won on a high level. And it was great to be able to play in an environment like Rupp Arena and play on a stage like the NCAA tournament. It was an exciting experience and something I know our guys will take with them for the rest of their life.
I was glad to get to see you guys play after I watched the tournament, the Southern Conference tournament, and saw you win. Corey Tripp he really had my attention. You can tell he's a difference maker in that he's a solid playmaker and also a really good 3-point shooter. Who was your leading scorer?
Absolutely. He's a very dynamic player. Not only can he score the ball at a really high rate, he does a great job of breaking down the defense and making plays, not only for himself, but for others. And so when you have a guy like Corey, he commands so much attention from the other team that not only is he going to be effective, but I think other guys are effective as well, being able to play with him, because he's a guy that at the end of the day, he really wants to win. And he's done a really good job of getting better every single year. As a freshman who played limited minutes, he played more as a sophomore. He was an all-conference player as a junior, and then he took his game to another level this past year as a senior, and was an all-conference player and led his team to a SoCon championship.
You took the team over after 9 games in the 2022-2023 season. So discuss the framework of handling the transition, getting the program, back up on its feet, then winning the tournament this year. And, it's generally your third season, although the book says 2.
Yeah, I think a large part of when I took over was about, creating and helping get the program back to more of some stable ground and influencing some stability and adding some stability to the program. And I thought as a staff, we did that. And then I thought last year, right, the 23-24 season, I thought we made strides, right? We were clearly more stable. We took step forwards in the right direction, but we weren't where we needed to be. We weren't playing at a championship level, not consistently at least. And a big part of stability, right, is retention. And so going into last offseason, the offseason that would be, the team that ends up winning the championship, I thought it was huge. We brought back our core group of guys, not only Corey Tripp, but Kyler Filowich, who ended up being the best big in our league, a Jackson Sibbles, a Dylan Bailey. Having those guys come back was huge. And so that added to not only the stability, it also added to, right, having a group of guys that could lead not only by example, but through their words and actions to not only the younger guys, but even guys that we brought in, like a Justin Bailey who came in and transferred. And so for us, it's been really simple. As the game has evolved and changed, that our style of play has evolved and changed with it. But what hasn't changed is the overall framework and vision that, the great players and coaches that they laid before us, like a Mike Young. What we do is very similar to when he was here as a coach. And how he conducts his program, what the program stood on with the 5 championships and 10 and 11 and in 14 and 15 and 19, right? Of having guys that are really tough and value each other. They value winning. It's a group of guys that are selfless, and it's a group of guys that really care not only about the team, but about the program and about the college. And so when he had those 5 championships, I think everyone that played and coached would agree a large portion of what that program stood for was about what I just said. And so we tried to carry that into, our program and our team today. And I think, it clearly has worked and has resonated not only with the players, but with everybody that's a part of our program. And so I was really glad to see, this group in 24 and 25 continue to make strides. And obviously it culminate with a Southern Conference championship.
Kyler File, which was interesting. He's got the Rick Barry method of shooting free throws. So how and why did he develop that for himself?
Yeah, I think a big part of Kyler changing is, he was not being efficient and effective shooting from a traditional form and technique. And so his biggest thing that Kyler mentioned is he wanted to be a reason why we won. He didn't want to be a reason why we didn't win. And so him switching to that, I think, led to him not only continuing to be aggressive and physical, which I think him not making free throws was starting to impact that. But it also gave him, right, some added confidence that if he went to the line, he felt that he could make free throws at an efficient rate. And whether he did or didn't was secondary to the first part. We wanted to have Kyler in a frame of mind that he was going to be the most confident he could be, the most physical he could be, and the toughest physically, mentally, and emotionally they can be. And I thought that change really helped with that. And it's a big reason why we were so effective and efficient at the end of the season is because Kyler was playing arguably his best basketball at the end of the year. And those two things flowed with one another.
What is your philosophy of the overall strategy now of building a team with the transfer portal, the NIL? Is it like you almost have to build a rotation and a depth chart year by year?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be flexible for sure. You can't be, rigid with how you build a team. I think for us, the most important aspects are still going to be getting guys that are going to fit into the college, fit into our basketball program. So we want guys that are going to be competitive. If that's something that we're going to have to coach, if guys are going to compete and if they're not going to compete, and it's probably not going to be a great fit. And we want guys that love basketball. You have to be able to love this game. It's a game, but it's hard and you're going to face adversity and there's no getting around that. And if you don't have a love for something, it's really hard to go through adverse moments and come out on the other side better. It's not just about enduring it, it's about embracing it. And I would say the other component that we really look for is guys that are great teammates. There's a baseline level of talent you have to have, but we don't really get caught up in, positions as much. We don't really have to deal with, grad transfers, juniors, seniors, because as an institution, we're only pretty much taking freshman and sophomore transfers. And so for us, it's way more about how much you love the game, how great of a teammate you are, and how competitive you are. And if you check those boxes and meet a baseline level of talent for us, we can make it work. And it's a big reason why we've changed up how we've played a little bit. But by and large, what hasn't changed is, right, the type of guys we're bringing out there and what our team is built on, which is physicality, toughness, and an overall selflessness of playing the game.
When players come into a program, has the perception of building the skills of the individual player change based on the portal, or do you just go about it the same way?
Yeah, we go about it relatively the same way. For us, we want guys to be able to dribble, pass, and shoot regardless of position. And no matter where they're coming in on each of those criteria, we still can get better at all three. But as we know, there's different, degrees of improvement in each of those categories. And so we want guys that think the game. We want guys that play tough and are physical. And within that, we can continue to work on their mechanics and their skill set as it relates to dribbling, passing, and shooting. But those are areas that, regardless, we really try to focus in on and improve, starting in the spring with your returning guys and carrying through into the summer with your whole entire team. And obviously becoming more of a team dynamic once you get to the fall in September, October, November, preparing for the beginning of the season.
It feels like the dribble drive has become even more a part of most offenses. What's your philosophy on how to rotate behind if your guard gets beat off the dribble?
Yeah, for us, offensively, we really try to put pressure on the paint. We love to drive. We love to be able to create as much space as possible. We try not to have a lot of rules. We want guys to be able to give the ball handler space, whether that's with screens, whether that's with, spacing and movement and cutting. And so it's not set in stone that when the ball is driven one particular spot that you have to get to a spot. You just have to create space for your teammate. And just as much as it's about creating space offensively, defensively, it's about taking up space and constricting space. And so for us, when we're on defense, we really want to rotate with the lowest man that create the ball handler to have some indecision. And once that ball is thrown out, now we're in a scramble mode to where we're flying and talking and communicating at a high level so that we have five guys guarding the ball. And as soon as the ball moves, we have five more guys guarding the ball. And as soon as that ball moves again, so on and so forth. And so for us, offensively, it's really about creating space, and defensively, it's about taking up that space.
I think the level inside of the college game gets better and better each year. From your perspective, is there much difference in the players from one bid leagues and power conferences? In other words, is that
No, I think yeah, I think I would agree 100% with what you're saying, Ken. I mean, the level of talent, the caliber of talent, no matter low, mid, high, is really high level. And I think the common theme, no matter if it's low, mid, or high, one bid league, multi bid league, is the best teams usually have a bunch of experience. And so, right, it's a reason why you could look at, right, you look at Tennessee, their best player this past year was Chaz Lanier, who obviously, right, came from North Florida. And the year before that, it was Dalton Connect, who came from Northern Colorado. And there's a lot of guys, right, that are playing at multi bid leagues that were in one bid leagues the year before. And it's a big reason why, right, one bid leagues have been so successful because, right, they have a lot of really good players that are old and that are skilled. And so I just think more than anything, I think the size and athleticism is different the higher up you go. But as far as skill set and overall player, I think, right, high, low, mid, you're going to get really good players at all of those levels.
last thing, Coach? The Southern Conference is consistently one of the top five mid-major conferences in college basketball. What has been key in the programs being able to have such sustainability from season to season?
Yeah, I would say a big part of that is our continuity as a conference. I think we're the only conference in the last decade that hasn't had a school or schools come in or leave. And so I think that consistency and the retention of the actual schools and institution has played a big role in that. On top of that, I think we have really good coaches. I think
Yeah.
the coaches in our league all play different and unique styles of play that are conducive to the guys they have. But we do a really good job with, playing and having a great scheme for how each school plays. And I think that bears out not only in our conference analytics, but I think our non-conference win-loss record is really good, as a conference. And I think the last piece, which is probably the most important for any coaches, we have really good players
Yeah.
year in, year out, whether guys end up going and transferring up or whether we're bringing new guys in. We have done a really good job as a league of having a quality and quantity combination of talent in our league. And I think, a bunch of, one bid leagues, typically it's either or. Either you have high quality and there's not a high amount of quantity of players, or you have a bunch of, solid to good players, but not high caliber players. And I think we've done both of that over the last 5 to 7 years, which is why, like you said, we're one of the top, one bid leagues in the entire country.
Coach Dwight Perry and those Wofford Terriers on the map once again as he's brought this program back up. Coach, it's a pleasure. I enjoyed watching you guys play and, challenge Tennessee over in Lexington. And I wish you the best. And I hope we can do this again, before the season starts.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.